I run this trail all the time, in all kinds of weather, and nothing bad has ever happened to me there. That's probably why it took so long to admit how scared I was that night. I kept telling myself it was just noise, right up until I saw something move. I don't usually go out that late. I tell people I like dusk because it's quieter, which is true, but it's also still light enough that nothing feels hidden yet. Night is different. Night asks more of you, mostly attention, sometimes a lot of imagination. That night it was cold in the way that makes your lungs feel smaller. The snow along the sides of the trail had started to melt and refreeze, so everything was gray and crusted, not pretty anymore. The trail was clear though, paved, flat, an old railroad grade, straight enough that you can see a long way in the daylight. Less so when the light's gone. I hadn't planned to think about the news, but I was already thinking about it before I got out of the car. Just a couple of reports, people in the bushes. Not attacks, exactly, just sightings, suspicious behavior. That phrase doesn't mean anything, and somehow it still sticks. I wasn't worried. I kept telling myself that part is true. I don't wear earbuds. I never have. Sometimes I play music quietly from my phone, just enough to hear it if I stop moving. But that night I didn't. It felt like cheating, covering things up. I wanted to hear the trail. The deer were out. They usually are. But there were more than usual, moving in the trees and along the edges where the snow is thinner. You hear them before you see them. A lot of noise for something that looks delicate. I started running and settled into a pace. Breath, steps, breath again. It was quieter than normal. No cars on the road that parallels the trail for a few miles. No wind. Just my shoes and the faint sound of water somewhere under ice. I saw only one person about 20 minutes in. A woman, I think. She came out of a side path and I didn't notice her until she was right there and I jumped. She jumped too. We both smiled and waved. Quick, embarrassed kind of wave, like we'd startled each other on purpose. Then she was gone behind me. After that, it got dark fast. At some point, I realized how long it had been since I'd seen another person, and that felt unusual enough that I checked my watch. I was still on pace. Nothing about the run itself was off. That part bothered me more than if something had been obviously wrong. The trail looked the same way as it always did, flat and familiar. The same bends. I could probably run blind if I had to. I passed one of the mile markers and tried to remember the last time I'd really paid attention to them. I usually don't. They're just there to confirm you're where you think you are. That night I slowed down just enough to read the number and then sped back up, irritated with myself for needing it. The quiet pressed in. Not dramatic, just complete. No wind through the trees, no distant traffic. Even the deer had gone still for a stretch, like everything had agreed to pause at once. My headlamp bounced with my steps, cutting the trail into small, manageable pieces, 10 feet at a time, then 10 more. I remember thinking, briefly, that if someone stepped out in front of me, I wouldn't see them until it was too late. I didn't dwell on it. I adjusted my stride and kept running. I turned up my headlamp. It's decent. Not one of the big ones, but it's not cheap either. The light goes out far enough to show you what you're about to step on. It doesn't do much for anything past that. Things just swallow it. I kept running. I was thinking about time. 45 minutes out, turn around, 45 back if I felt good, or less. It didn't matter. My fingers were already numb. About 2/3 of the way in, I heard something move off to my right. At first, I didn't slow down. The deer had been everywhere all night. They crash around like they're trying to be noticed. I told myself that and kept going. And then it happened again. Closer, heavier, branches, something pushing through the brush instead of stepping around it. I shined my light toward the sound. All I saw was snow and tangled brown plants, and for a second, something bright. Not bright like a sign, smaller, a flicker, almost like a light or tape. And then it moved. That was the moment my stomach dropped, because it didn't feel or move like a deer. It shifted, stopped, shifted again. I couldn't see a body, just a brush reacting to something inside of it. I stopped and stood there, listening. My breath was loud in my ears. I felt stupid for stopping. I felt stupid for thinking about the news. I told myself that too. Then there was another crash, and the reflector showed again, farther back, catching the edge of my light and then disappeared. I didn't call out. I don't know why. I think I didn't want to hear the answer. That was about where I planned to turn around anyway, so I didn't debate it. I just turned. As soon as I did, something moved again, faster this time, more noise. I didn't look. I just started running harder. The trail was icy in spots. I'd already slipped twice earlier, little skids that didn't matter until you remember them later. I kept my eyes on the ground and tried not to think about what was behind me. I looked back once again, just a glance. The light bounced, and for a split second I saw the reflector again, and then nothing. Then it flashed again, closer to the trail than before. I didn't stop. I don't remember deciding not to stop. I just didn't. After a while, I don't know how long, I slowed down. My legs were shaking in that way that isn't about effort anymore. I pulled off to the side and bent over with my hands on my knees, breathing so hard that it hurt. The trail behind me was empty. Steam rose from the grass and the snow where my light hit it. Everything looked unreal and flat, like a picture that hadn't loaded properly yet. I listened. Nothing but my breathing. And then I saw it again. Flash, flash, flash. 3 quick reflections, low to the ground, moving in a way that finally made sense. I lifted my headlamp higher and stood still. A deer stepped out onto the edge of the trail and froze, staring at me. On its back right hoof was a strip of reflective tape, frayed at one end, catching the light every time it shifted its weight. I laughed once, and it came out wrong. I walked for a minute after that, then I turned and ran back toward the car. I didn't look into the bushes again. I didn't need to.